afternoon, New York. It is 12 o'clock noon on Monday, the 29th of June, 1914, and you are tuned to WHAM 1180 on your dial. This is the Noonday Dispatch. I am George Whitmore. I want to dispense with the pleasantries today because the news this morning is of a kind that does not admit pleasantries. Yesterday, Sunday, the 28th of June, in the city of Sarajevo in the Austro-Hungarian province of Bosnia and Herzegovina, the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary was shot dead in the street. His wife was shot dead beside him. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the man who was to become Emperor of Austria-Hungary, master of one of the great powers of Europe, and his wife Sophie, the Duchess of Hohenberg, are dead, killed by a 19-year-old Bosnian student with a pistol and a grievance against the empire that rules his country. I have been in this business for 22 years, and I have learned not to predict what any single event will mean for the future. But I will tell you what I told my editor this morning when the cables came through. This one feels different. This one has the weight of something large behind it. Stay with us. We have a great deal to cover. Before we get into the terrible news from Sarajevo, here is the Denver Nightingale himself, Billy Murray, with the automobile song everybody's been humming this summer, because even today, some things still make you smile.
Johnny O'Connor bought an automobile. He took his sweetheart for a ride one Sunday. Johnny was carved up in his best Sunday clothes. She nestled close to his side. Things went so sandy till he got down the road. Then something happened to the old machinery. That engine got his goat. Off went his hat and coat. Everything needed repair. He'd have to get out and get under, to fix his little machine. He was just dying to cuddle his queen, but every minute when he'd begin it, he'd have to get out and get under. Then he'd get back at the wheel. A dozen times they'd start to hug and kiss, and then the darn old engine, it would miss, and then he'd have to get out and get under, and fix up his automobile. Millionaire Wilson said to Johnny one day, "Your little sweetheart don't appreciate you. I have a daughter who is hungry for love. She likes to ride every day." Johnny had visions of $1 million in gold. He took her riding in his little auto, but every time that he went to say marry me, 'twas the old story again. He'd have to get out and get under, to fix his little machine. He was just dying to cuddle his queen, but every minute when he'd begin it, he'd have to get out and get under. Then he'd get back at the wheel. Every time that he would reach for a kiss, it seemed the darned old spark plug, it would miss, and then he'd have to get out and get under, and fix up his automobile. He'd have to get out and get under, to fix his little machine. He was just dying to cuddle his queen, but every minute when he'd begin it, he'd have to get out and get under. Then he'd get back at the wheel. It seems that once he sat down on his knee, and then he lost control, ran right up a tree, and then he had to get out and get under, and fix up his automobile.
Let me lay out what we know in the order that it happened as clearly as I can. The details are still coming in by cable, and some of what I tell you may be adjusted as more information arrives, but this is the picture as of this morning. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir presumptive to the Austro-Hungarian throne. was making an official visit to Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. He was there in his capacity as Inspector General of the Imperial Armed Forces to review military exercises. Bosnia was annexed by Austria-Hungary 6 years ago in 1908, a move that deeply angered Serbian nationalists who believed Bosnia ought to be part of a greater Serbian or South Slavic state. The visit was announced in advance, security was present, but, as events proved, inadequate. Yesterday morning, the Archduke and the Duchess were driven through the streets of Sarajevo in an open automobile. Several would-be assassins were already positioned along the motorcade route. One of them, a young man named Nedelju Čabrinović, threw a bomb at the Archduke's car. The bomb hit the vehicle but bounced off and exploded under the following automobile, wounding several members of the party. The Archduke's car sped away. After attending a reception at the City Hall, during which the Archduke, by all accounts, was furious about the attack, he insisted on going to the hospital to visit those who had been wounded. This was either an act of genuine courage or an act of fatal stubbornness, and perhaps both. The drivers were told of the change in plans, but the order did not reach everyone. The motorcade initially turned down the wrong street. The drivers stopped to turn around, and there, standing on the corner of Franz Josef Street, was Gavrilo Princip, 19 years old, a Bosnian Serb student, a member of a revolutionary movement called Young Bosnia. He had been part of the original conspiracy and had given up on the assassination after Čabrinović's bomb failed. And then the car stopped in front of him. Princip drew a Browning pistol and fired twice at close range. First bullet struck the Duchess in the abdomen. The second tore through the Archduke's jugular vein. Sophie died en route to the hospital. Franz Ferdinand died shortly after, reportedly whispering to his wife as he lost consciousness, "Sophie, dear, don't die. Stay alive for our children." Princip attempted to shoot himself with the same pistol. He was tackled by bystanders before he could do so. He is in custody in Sarajevo. He is 19 years old. He was apparently too young under Austro-Hungarian law to be sentenced to death. The cables this morning tell us that Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany was on his yacht for a regatta when a warship intercepted him to deliver the news. He is described as deeply shaken and has returned to Kiel. The German Emperor and the Austrian Archduke were close. Whatever Germany does in the weeks ahead will matter enormously. A quieter moment now. Here is Marguerite Dunlap, recording under the name Lillian Davis, with a charming little song that any mother in our listening audience will recognize the sentiment of immediately.
rent has to pay. My daddy taught me. You got your mother's big blue eyes. You got your mother, she's like her. I must confess you are the image of your mother. From your nose to your toes to your toes. The way you ask for pennies shows. You know just what to use, mother knows. And when you grow to be a big lady like your daddy wants you to, if you're out the lady that your mother is, I'll be mighty proud of you.
And now let me try to give you some sense of what this assassination means in political terms, because that question is already being asked in every foreign ministry in Europe, and it will be asked here too before long. Franz Ferdinand was not a universally beloved figure. He was known as a man of strong opinions, suspicious of the Hungarians, deeply conservative, but also, and this is important, a man who believed the Hapsburg Empire could survive through reform. He reportedly favored a restructuring of the empire that would give the Slavic peoples within its borders, the Czechs, the Croats, the Slovens, the Serbs, more autonomy, more political standing. This made him a complicated figure, hated by the Serbian nationalists who killed him because his reforms might have undercut the argument for separation, distrusted by the Hungarians because their privileged position within the dual monarchy might have been reduced. Uncomfortable for many in Vienna because he was simply a difficult man with difficult ideas. The question now being asked in London, Paris, Berlin, St. Petersburg, and Rome is this: what does Vienna do? Austria-Hungary cannot simply absorb the assassination of its heir presumptive without a response. The empire's credibility, its prestige, its internal stability all demand some kind of action. The question is whether that action will be diplomatic, a demand for an accounting from the Serbian government, which is suspected of having connections to the Black Hand secret society that trained and equipped the assassins, or something more forceful. The newspapers this morning are careful. They speak of a crisis and of grave implications for the peace of Europe. Let me be somewhat less careful. The map of European alliances is well known to any attentive reader of the news. Austria-Hungary is allied with Germany and Italy. Serbia is closely connected to Russia. Russia is allied with France. France is aligned with Britain. Every great power in Europe is tied to every other great power by a web of treaties and obligations that was built, piece by piece, over the last 40 years, on the theory that a web of mutual deterrence would prevent a major war. We are going to find out whether that theory is correct. There is also the matter of the Hapsburg dynasty itself. The Emperor Franz Joseph is 83 years old. He has been on the throne since 1848, 66 years. His reign has been marked, as our morning cables note, by an almost unparalleled series of personal and dynastic catastrophes. His brother Maximilian executed in Mexico, his son Crown Prince Rudolph dead by his own hand at Mayerling, his wife Empress Elizabeth stabbed by an anarchist in Geneva, and now his nephew and heir shot in the street. One does not need to be superstitious to note that the Hapsburg Line has been extraordinarily ill-served by fate. The old emperor has survived all of it, and he will survive this. But he is 83, and whoever comes after him, the new heir presumptive, his grandnephew Karl, will inherit an empire in crisis, a wound that has not yet finished bleeding. And now, Bert Williams, the finest comedian in vaudeville today, and a man who can say more with a pause than most men say in an evening, with his poker club number that has been stopping shows all season.
Jackson was told of. He dined the dark down on the club, then just the day they told him that he could dine. His money might have weeks. Else someone had paid. This night he was considered all his time. For his as I think I'll play him a pipe tonight, bobtail flush will make me bite. When I go in, my ham will be a feast. But till he's gone in and loses pile, he got time to beat it after a while. One night he got up and made a speech. Said, "You see this brand new razor? I had it sharpened just today. And I want to tell you all some new rules to follow hereafter. When we play, keep your hands above the table when you're dealing. Please. And I don't want to mix no aces down between your knees. Don't be making funny signs to tip your hands. I don't want to hear no kind of language that I don't understand. Stop eating from the bottom because it looks so rough. And remember that in poker, 5 yards is enough. When you bet, shut up, because I don't like it when you shy. And when you're broke, get up and then come on back by and by. Half the yards need to shuffle every time before you leave. If there's anything wrong, I see. I'm not going to play this game no more according to Mr. Oil. Yeah, after it's going to be caught in the meat. Now, seated right there in the clam, there chanced to be a one-eyed man, still watching from the corner of his eye. The one-eyed man would deal and then would cost Bill Jackson 5 or 10. Finally, he got up with a sigh. Says, I think that it's still the same, but there's something going on in the game. And honestly, I don't want to name the guy. But I may not call his name. If I think I catch him cheating again, I'm going to take my fist and close his other eye. Have them shots to me to shuffle every time before you see it. If there's anything wrong, why, I'll see. We ain't going to play this game no more. According to style, the answer is just told to me.
While Europe processes the shock of yesterday, America has its own news to attend to, and the honest truth is that the news from Sarajevo is going to dominate the morning papers for some time to come, making it easy to miss what is happening closer to home. Theodore Roosevelt is unwell. The former president has been suffering from health difficulties that are causing concern among his supporters as the midterm election season begins to build. Some of his engagements have been canceled. Those who watch his party closely, the Progressive Party, the Bull Moose movement, know that Roosevelt's personal force is its greatest asset and its greatest vulnerability. Without him in full health, the movement faces an uncertain autumn. On the diplomatic front, Francis B. Loomis, a former Assistant Secretary of State, has taken sharp aim at Secretary Bryan and the proposed treaty with Colombia. The treaty, which would offer Colombia $25 million and an expression of regret for the American role in the separation of Panama from Colombian territory, is, in Loomis's words, a stupendous blunder. Loomis argues it amounts to an admission of guilt and sets a dangerous precedent for American foreign policy. Bryan's defenders say it is simply good diplomacy and long overdue. This debate is going to continue. The situation in Mexico remains deeply unsettled. Carranza, the leader of the constitutionalist forces who opposes the government of Huerta, has called American policy in Mexico dictatorial. He says the United States has no right to impose conditions on how Mexico resolves its own internal conflict. The State Department has not yet responded publicly. Meanwhile, the USS Machias fired on the port of Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic yesterday in response to a bombardment of that city by forces loyal to President Bordas. A few shots from an American naval vessel stopped the shelling. The implications for American intervention in Caribbean politics are worth watching. The Peerless Quartet now, 4 voices that blend like they were made for each other, with a song that has been on every pair of lips from Broadway to the Battery this summer.
apart when I look at you. Oh, feeling overtakes me and it makes me go cozy and blue. I can't bear it when we're apart, like a child of three. I can't be darling without my darling. You're worth a fortune to me. And all alone, you got it on them all. If you are the hungry soul, you'll be with your wicked soul. You were made to love. I was made to fall. And that look in your eyes made me go out and try to get $1 million. It was $1 million. Oh, you $1 million. Though some stories break when they fall, if you fall, won't you will be a tender fairy, and the fairy that we break on me. I go out to keep and fall if I talk with you. And over parties and regular parties, couldn't we find out with you? $1 million dollars, you got it on them all. If you were the angry soul, you'll be with your wicked soul. You were made to love. I was made to fall. And that look in your eyes made me go out and try to get $1 million. To win $1 million. Oh, you $1 million. $1 million. You got it on them all. If you were the country soul, you'll be with your wicked soul. You were made to love. I was made to fall. And that look in your eyes made me go out and try to get $1 million. To win $1 million. Oh, you $1 million.
Some local items now, because New York does not stop for any assassination, however consequential. The courts of special sessions have published their annual report, and the numbers are not encouraging. 16,506 cases were heard in 1913, exclusive of juvenile offenders. 16,506. The city's population grows, the courts grow busier, and the question of what to do about crime in the 5 boroughs remains persistently without a satisfying answer. Over in Dover, New Jersey, a fire of suspicious origin has destroyed the Richardson and Boynton stove plant, with estimated losses of $500,000. Incendiarism is suspected. The plant employed a considerable number of men, and the community is feeling the loss. At the Rockaway Beach Resort, a new form of thievery has apparently taken hold. The beach thieves are described as unusually imaginative in their methods. I will spare you the details, but the resort managers are asking visitors to take extra care with their belongings. Summer crime on the waterfront is not a new problem, but this season's operators seem to have applied a certain ingenuity to their trade. And in New Jersey, a prison guard was shot and wounded by an inmate described as mentally disturbed who had been plotting an escape. The plot was discovered by attendants who initially dismissed the prisoner's threats as the raving of a deranged man. The lesson that even disturbed men sometimes mean exactly what they say is one that prison administrators may wish to take to heart. The Peerless Quartet returns, and this one has the warmth that a hot June afternoon calls for. When it's moonlight on the Alamo.
The moon is all along the Alamo. Come on, my love, let's go. Goodbye, just like your eyes in the sky, in
And a good card on the baseball diamond yesterday, the Cincinnati Reds had a fine Sunday, doubling up on their opponents in both games of an afternoon program. The first game was decided by the bat. Cincinnati's hitters found their range and drove in the runs that mattered. The second game was a matter of pitching, and the Reds pitcher was the better man on the mound. 2 wins in one afternoon is a satisfying day's work, and the Reds are making a case for themselves as the summer progresses. Right here in New York, the Giants had the kind of afternoon that every manager dreams about. The home run was the weapon, and it was used to full effect. 2 home runs in a game is not always enough to win, but yesterday it was precisely enough, and the Giants took the victory. The crowd at the Polo Grounds had something to cheer about. The Yankees played to a tie, which is the sort of result that satisfies nobody and will require a make-up game at some point. Ties in baseball are nobody's favorite outcome. But the Yankees have been having a season that suggests ties may be the least of their concerns. On the Speedway, in the world of trotting horses, the trotter owned by Nathan Strauss of Denver captured the cup yesterday and extended its record to an unbeaten streak for the season. The horse's name will be known to enthusiasts. Its performance yesterday will confirm what they already believe, that this is one of the finest animals competing on the American Speedway circuit this summer. A Haydn quartet, and on a day when we are all waiting for something to happen on the other side of the world, the title of this number seems particularly apt.
I'm waiting, darling. We parted like a sailing lane, past the mountain chain. Why don't you come back to me again? Out of the mountainside, in sunset light, I'll always think of the day you said goodbye. Think of the way you made me smile. I'm too lonesome across the great divide. I'll wait for you across the great divide. I'm waiting come back to me again. Down the mountainside, in sunset valley, I always think of the day you said goodbye. Recall the way you made me smile. I'm so lonesome, across the great divide, I wait for you.
Some cultural items now, because this city's social and artistic life continues regardless of what the cables bring from across the Atlantic. The old folks' dinner at the Hotel Narragansett was held this past weekend, and by all accounts it was a considerable success. The evening featured a contest of sorts between the new dances, the tango chief among them, and the old standards. Home, sweet home, I am pleased to report, vanquished the tango. There are those in this city who will take that result as evidence that the new dances are merely a passing fashion. There are others who will say the old folks simply weren't willing to learn the steps. I suspect both parties are partially correct. The Zionist Congress is open in Rochester, with delegates gathering from Jewish communities across the country to discuss the movement's direction and its goals for the coming years. The movement is planning expansion, more chapters, more outreach, a more organized presence in American civic life. Whatever one's views on the political questions underlying Zionism, the gathering in Rochester represents a significant organizational effort by a community that has been in this country for generations and is making its presence felt. Professor Todd of Amherst College has announced a rather remarkable plan for the solar eclipse of August 21st. He intends to observe it from an aeroplane flying above the cloud layer that so often frustrates ground-based observers of the critical moment. The professor will sail above the clouds in a flying machine, watching the sun go dark from an altitude no astronomer has previously commanded. This seems to me to be exactly the sort of thing that 1914 is capable of producing. Old science and new machinery combined in the service of understanding. And Admiral Dewey, the hero of Manila Bay in '98, the most celebrated naval officer of his generation, has been invited to ride on his old flagship Olympia in the parade celebrating the opening of the Panama Canal. The canal is expected to open formally this summer, and it represents an engineering achievement that the last century could barely have imagined. A man who sailed into Manila Harbor to destroy a Spanish fleet will now sail through a waterway that connects two oceans. The age we are living in has a grandeur about it that I do not think we fully appreciate from the inside. Prince's orchestra now, one of the finest dance bands in the phonograph business, with a lilting little number that arrived from Europe and has charmed every ballroom in the city. Now, because even on a Monday when the world feels heavier than usual, there is always something worth a smile. Over in Hudson County, New Jersey, the anti-mosquito campaign has declared victory. The county's skeeter hunters, the crews of men who have been draining swamps and treating breeding grounds for the past season, have eliminated the mosquito from their county and are celebrating their triumph with a dinner.
This is objectively a more practical and measurable achievement than most of what our political leaders accomplish in a given year. The mosquito hunters of Hudson County deserve their celebration. And on the subject of the automobile, which is transforming this city and this country faster than most of us can track, the Automobile Club of America has published new route guides for the motor run from New York to the Delaware Water Gap. Several alternate routes are described with notes on road conditions, distances, and points of interest along the way. The automobile vacation is no longer an eccentricity of the wealthy. It is becoming a habit of the middle class, and the roads are beginning to reflect that fact. Now, I want to say something as we move toward the close of today's broadcast about what kind of a moment we are in, because I think it is worth saying plainly, even though plain speaking about the future is generally a fool's errand. We are living at the summit of something. The past 20 years have been, by most measures, an extraordinary run for the civilized world. Peace among the great powers for longer than any previous generation has known. Trade crossing every ocean. Steam and electricity in the internal combustion engine reshaping daily life. Cities growing, standards of living rising, art and science flourishing, the Panama Canal opening, men flying through the air. The very electric currents that carry this voice to your radio set represent what this age has achieved. And yesterday, in a street in a city most Americans could not have located on a map last week, a 19-year-old boy fired 2 shots at an Archduke's car and stopped the car because a driver took a wrong turn. 2 shots, a wrong turn. This morning, every diplomatic office in Europe is humming with anxious conversation. I don't know what comes next. That is the honest answer. I know that Austria-Hungary will respond and that its response will determine a great deal. I know that the alliance system of Europe is a structure designed to provide security, and that structures designed to provide security sometimes fail catastrophically. I know that the great powers have been managing crises for 40 years without a general war, and that their skill at this management has perhaps led them to overconfidence. And I know that it is a beautiful Monday in late June in New York City. The summer is here. The baseball season is underway. Admiral Dewey is going to sail through the Panama Canal in his old flagship. The mosquito hunters of Hudson County are having their dinner. The world contains all of these things at once. It always has. Pay attention to all of them. Henry Burr and Albert Campbell, 2 of the finest voices in the phonograph trade, with a philosophical little duet about love and loyalty that fits this particular afternoon rather well.
Don't go away till you hear what I will say. Don't let it be, I told you so. You say our dream is true, but you know that isn't true. Ask that question on your heart before you go. All the old not all of your history, how you must know. I know people doesn't sound well with a brand new song. On with the old love, on with the new. Easier to say than do. You may try to forget, but your heart won't let anything not very well. The old lives yet, for old love said, when it's good to the test, so it's bound to linger longer in your heart than the rest. Off with the old love, on with the new. Easier to say than do. Easier to say than do. Anything must very well the old is yet, for old love said, when it's good to the test, so it's bound to linger longer in your heart than the rest. Off with the old love, on with the new. Easier to say than do.
Olive Klein, a soprano voice of real warmth and clarity, with something gentle before we move to the closing monologue. together for you before we sign off this afternoon. Yesterday in Sarajevo, Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie were shot dead by a 19-year-old student named Gavrilo Princip. The assassin is in custody. The Archduke is dead. The Duchess is dead. The Kaiser has cut short his regatta. The chancellors of Europe are in motion. We do not yet know what Vienna will do, and that is the question upon which a very great deal depends. Here at home, Theodore Roosevelt is unwell. The treaty with Colombia is under attack. The Navy has fired on the Dominican Republic. Mexico remains in turmoil. The courts of New York are overloaded. And in Hudson County, New Jersey, the mosquitoes are gone. I want to close with one observation, and I offer it not as a prediction, but as a thought worth holding. The man who was killed yesterday was not an especially popular figure. He was difficult. He was stubborn. He was known to hold views that made powerful people uncomfortable. He married for love against his family's wishes, and his family never forgave him for it. He could not ride in a carriage beside his wife in most official circumstances because she was not considered royal enough. He went to Sarajevo partly because it was one of the few places where his rank allowed him to be seen publicly with Sophie as his equal. For love of his wife, said one paper, did the Archduke go to his death? I find something in that worth remembering, whatever the weeks ahead bring. A man went to a city he should not have visited, in a car that stopped where it should not have stopped. Because he loved a woman the world said he should not have married, and the world changed. This is George Whitmore. You have been listening to the Noonday Dispatch on WHAM 1180 on your dial. We broadcast every weekday at noon. We will be here tomorrow, and we will have more from the cables. Whatever they bring, we will tell you straight. Take care of yourselves, New York. It is a fine summer day. Use it while you have something entirely different to lift the spirits. Constantine Stuffen performing Scott Joplin's Magnetic Rag, because there is no finer tonic for a heavy afternoon than ragtime played with real precision and feeling. Henry Burr, the gentleman baritone, who has sung his way into every American parlor with a song that'll send you into the rest of this Monday with something warmer than the news deserves.